record. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the plants. I don't know if you guys have been taking them or not, or where you are with it. Yes, see, I have mine. It's like a nice dark brew. So what are you doing nettles, Becky?
So I wanted to do Comfrey, and I told you we have no liver issues in my home, and I have been wanting to try it orally. And when I took the bag out from Star West Botanicals, and it says organic, and I don't know how mature the leaf is, but it says do not ingest. And I went, well, I remember Josie saying something about all.
One of my teachers, Jen Costa, is really cool. And somehow I came across several years ago, she put out a recording about Comfrey as part of her long herbal class. And I contacted her because I said, and I've done plant spirit journeys with her and stuff. And I said, listen, Jen, I have this huge giant Comfrey plant. She's the queen of my garden right now. And she is so in my face. Like I couldn't get to any other plant without going to her. And can I listen to your talk? And I just listened to it this afternoon. Comfrey is the damn outlaw plant. That's what I'm calling it. Comfrey is the rebel outlaw. And I looked up my own information, which she validated, but it was really interesting hearing from her because she worked with Pam Montgomery and a lot of like older herbalists. And what she talked about is that when when herbal medicine started getting more popular back in the 70s and 80s, and big pharma became very threatened, Comfrey was a really common plant. It was brought here, they would grow it, everybody would have Comfrey in their garden, and they brought it, the Scots brought it over. It grows everywhere. It's super easy to grow. I don't do anything to mine in South Florida where everything else dies. It's in a plant out there and it's just exploding. And so what happened with Comfrey is there were a total of 4 cases, 4 human beings died while taking Comfrey. Okay, now we know every single drug, all of the people that die on drugs.
Yeah, with not all, yes.
So what they did now, and you can, I put the link to these 4 cases. Each one of these people had severe comorbidities. I mean, one of them had cancer, one of them had multiple autoimmune things going on. There was a lot going on. And it turns out that all of them didn't get it from an herbalist or anything. They just started taking it at super high doses every day for at least 4 months or more. Okay, so this is one of the things why I'm even doing this class and why I want to get more information out, because especially in the animal world, you cannot, there are some herbs, yes, and this is a really good, there's a good contrast between Comfrey and nettles. Comfrey is one of these herbs that's very powerful. It's such a good healing ally, but you don't take it every day like a tonic. It is not a tonic herb. There are some herbs that are tonic herbs, like nettles. Nettles is a perfect tonic herb. Comfrey is not. So Jen said these 4 cases, she really broke it down really well. They had all these comorbidities, and God knows what killed them. One of them was severely malnourished, and was probably dehydrated. And so because of these 4 cases that died, they made a pathological diagnosis of hepatic vascular occlusion disease. Okay, now that based upon just these 4 cases, right. And then, you know, I mean, it's almost like a similar parallel to the whole COVID deal. And this, what they did in order to study it in animal studies to prove it, is they took pigs and rats, they put them on comfrey leaf and comfrey root, but then what they did is they figured, well, it must be the pyrrolozidine alkaloids in there that is causing the problem. So they concentrated that alkaloid out and injected it into the stomach of the rats and pigs, pure alkaloid. And then, of course, they died. And so they're saying it's Comfrey, and Comfrey's going to kill everybody, right?
Yeah.
where it's like she says when she showed her apothecary, she has, they say the strongest of where the PAs are the strongest are in the root, then in the immature leaves, and then in the mature leaves. Now, when I went out and harvested my leaves, I actually realized, because I did so after I did all this research, before I did all the research, I took some mature leaves and I took some immature leaves. And she even says in her video, she's like, if you have a mixture of mature and immature leaves, you're going to have a really good mix. It's going to be balanced, some with stronger, some with less. But the roots itself have a mucilage to them, almost like slippery elm or marshmallow. And so there's all these other components in plants that mitigate the effects of those PAs. So when she makes a tincture of the root, which is the strongest medicine you can get from it, and it's almost like mucusy in there in the bottle. And so, but that she says, and she puts it on her label, so if her husband or anything comes along to grab it, you only stay on it for 2 weeks.
Right.
If you need to stay on it for 2 weeks, but it's such a damn potent medicine that oftentimes you only need to stay on it 3 to 5 days. Okay, now she uses that for pneumonia. She uses it for bronchitis. She uses it for viral diseases. And then, so any respiratory skin. And then with the poultice, like doing it topically, they say, oh, it's no problem. But, everything else still absorbs through our skin. So that's what kind of like went like to me, like, so you can slather it on your body topically, but you can't take it internally. So it's good. It teaches us about right action and right usage and knowing the plant, and that plant had already told me without anything to take some of my new leaves and take some of my young leaves, and I made the flower essence. So
by the way, I have your flower essence.
Oh,
and I've been doing it every single day, and I want you to know I feel different. I feel less, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I'm less anxious about things. I feel like things can hit me now and I can read them, and I don't get that same deep, dark feeling about, bringing up things for me that were like, how can they do this and whatever. I mean, it makes me feel more grounded. I really like it. I like the flavor. I like everything about it.
Oh, cool. Because I've been taking it and it helped me go in and heal some old emotional wounds, big time.
That's for me too. I hear things now that would have set me off, and now I kind of go, yeah, we know about those, but we're past that, and we're this. It just gives me that grounding of, I mean, that's what I told you when I went for it. I really, really like it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it helped me go back in. Actually, I had a huge session with my ex-partner who we did a lot of really high spiritual work together, even though he ended up dying of an overdose. But he's on the other side. He's like a Pendragon. He's on the other side working on healing the masculine ancestry lines.
Nice.
And work on healing how the masculine interacts with feminine and bringing back that Arthurian, that respect and love for both that, which he and I did a lot of that when he was alive. And then my mom too, she came through, but it was like huge healing. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And so the Comfrey, hearing you say that you took young leaf and mature leaf, because when I looked at this bag, I mean, it smells beautiful. I am going to do it. I actually am going to do it and just do a quick, hour or two infusion, just to taste it and I want it mainly for the mineral content that it contains.
What I did, Comfrey works on all levels of the body. It works everywhere from our skin to our respiratory, to our sinus. I never thought, until I heard Jen's recording, I never thought of it for respiratory stuff. But here's the thing, when I got COVID, I had all my herbs out there, and I did marshmallow leaf, because I had these giant bag of marshmallow leaf, which is a mucilage. I did mullein.
Yep.
I put fresh comfrey leaf in there, because I'm like, this shit is damaging my body, and I want the wounds, whatever trauma it's creating in my body, I want that healed up. And comfrey heals trauma, and it heals wounds. It heals the GI. And you can combine it with calendula or chamomile for inflammatory bowel disease. She said post-surgical, if you ever have to go in for surgery, to do it for 2 weeks after the surgery, just 2 weeks. Bones, and then it goes all the way to the bone, and the spinum, and then ligaments and tendons, cruciate ligaments. And so you can do a poultice on the area and do it internally. Any kind of trauma. And then what she said, and you have to tell us about your dog, because you want Becky and I, because I want a recording of your dog, because your dog healed a non-union fracture.
On homeopathic symphytum.
Symphytum officinale, homeopathic.
And Cissus quadrangularis, which is that herb that they were using in India for street dogs, that the dog food there, because street dogs, they don't, get broken legs being hit and whatever, and they heal. And that's where I first heard of it. And she healed a non-union that took months and months and months and months. And they were ready until I said, I am going to do this. You haven't come up with anything. Tell me what to do. And I have found these two things, and I am going to do this, and I'm going to do it for 30 days before you amputate my dog's leg.
But that's amazing. She had it for months, and it was still able to go in there and knit it back together.
She had x-rays like every 3 weeks. And the orthopedic surgeon, I love her. She's a nice lady, but she works in her own realm, and her toolbox is very narrow, and she's a great surgeon, but she couldn't come up with anything else for me to do when this thing was not healing. And this dog, I had rescued her, and she was, had been tied up in a warehouse, and God only knows what all happened to her. I didn't have her but 4 months before all this happened. So she didn't have all my good raw food and nourishment and all of these great things that could have happened. I didn't really know what to do. And every time I'd take her in for the next ray and it wasn't healed, they were just, I said, there's got to be something I can do. There's got to be something I could give her to help the bone heal or whatever. And they're like, you don't want to mess around with calcium and phosphorus and blah, blah, it's that whole allopathic regimen that says,
and they're so fearful. It's so weird. They're so
weird. And so I took studies. I actually published studies. I still have them in my folder for her. I should pull out those studies and give you
yeah.
I took these studies in, and I said, this is what I want you to read.
Post the studies, post the references up in the group. That would be great.
And now they're using that for people that can't take bisphosphonates. Women that have osteoporosis that can't take bisphosphonates, they're using Cissus quadrangularis to help these people get their bone density back.
And that's one reason why these infusions are so good as older women for us now to head that stuff off. But it's interesting, Jen Costa, she will use the homeopathic symphytum instead of arnica, because arnica is more on the superficial layers with like muscle and stuff, whereas the symphytum gets all the layers from the skin all the way down into that bone. So she'll often use that for pain instead. So those are two things. And the so in the Comfrey, it has compounds in it, the allantoin, and these other compounds that cause cell proliferation. It actually causes cells to grow. And that's why it knits together. There was an old saying, I think it was from an herbalist back in like the 1600s. And they said, if you throw, if you have an animal and it's all of its, you can just cut off all of its limbs and throw all the pieces together and throw it in a pot of comfrey, and it'll put them all back together again.
Yeah, my friend, my herbalist friend Laurel Davis from Herbs of the World, she
Uh-huh.
had me this years ago when they were first starting to come down. She had a really hard time. There were a lot of products that she couldn't sell. She had to change formulations to take
Yeah,
the out, etc.
yeah,
She always referred to it as bone set.
yeah.
Yes, bone set, correct. That's
And
what I,
Well, there's a different bone, there's a different herb that's bone set, but that's bone knit. But
right,
yeah,
that's how she referred to it as. That's what it did. That it was amazing for bones. So she figured out ways how to get around and was, with friends. I mean, she'd send these
well,
stuff
that's
labeled.
the whole thing. It's like the herbalist, but you have to know know the herbalist. But it's funny because I will say I put out the word because I don't want to. I think we need to, this whole thing, and this is why Comfrey came up as leading this whole entire class, is we have to know our plants and you have to have that relationship. So no, you don't use it on a daily basis. You don't put it in a powder that you're going to put in your dog's food every day for the next 2 years. It's so we need to know that. But where was I going to go with that? I forgot. I lost my train of thought. So Comfrey, it's right. Just I read this Buddhist article last night, and it was very interesting because they always talk about having right action and taking right, almost like it has to do with taking responsibility for everything from your thoughts in your head to your actions, and being mindful and coming at it from a place of integrity and what your intention is behind it, and not harming, and not, oh, I've got this powder here and they say it's good for that, so just give it all the time kind of thing. And I see that happening so much in the world right now, and it's gonna create harm. Oh, but this is what I was gonna say. I contacted 2 animal herbalists, neither one of them veterinarians, because I wanted to get their take on Comfrey before I even put it out to just you guys. And it was really interesting because one of them was like, oh my God, you can't use it. It's got those PAs in it. And I was like, I know it has the PAs in it, but there's certain ways you can use it. And it was like, oh no, you can't use it. It's a horrible, horrible thing. And then the other one was like, well, you can use it topically, but I wouldn't go near it with anything else, So it was just very, very interesting. And yet that's why it was so refreshing to hear Jen Costa. Now, and Jen Costa is also, she's a nurse in the hospital. She works as a surgical nurse, and she's worked as an oncology nurse and ER nurse. So she has the Western medicine thing behind her as well, which is kind of cool. Now, the one thing I wanted to add, because I did say about the liver disease, is they're saying this hepatic venal occlusion disease happens whether you have high liver enzymes or you don't have high liver enzymes. But the way it happens is because you're taking high doses for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Because I wanted that repair when I had this, I probably put a tablespoon of fresh comfrey leaves in every cup of tea, along with my nettles, along with my marshmallow root, along with mullein. And then I couldn't sleep, so I added the milky oats in there as well. And now I'm kind of taking the milky oats out and I'm doing more nettles. So nettles, if we go on to nettles, both nettles and comfrey, you have to remember they're weeds. They grow everywhere and they grow rapidly, and they're in abundance. They're not endangered. Everybody could have probably a nettle patch and a comfrey plant. And I have mine just in a 5-gallon bucket, literally a 5-gallon Home Depot bucket. So, Nettles is the tonic. Nettles is the mother tonic. Nettles, it's best to get her when in the very springtime when the leaves are really, really tender and just coming up, and people will harvest those leaves, dry them for both tea, and then some people will take them and mash them up into like a poultice and freeze them. And they do the same thing with comfrey. And I put a recipe in there about taking the comfrey leaves, the fresh leaves, putting them in a blender with water, and then you freeze it. And then if you have an injury or you have a soreness, you can literally just take it out of your freezer, thaw it out, and you've got your poultice to put right on. Now, I
Yes.
this comfrey salve from this woman. I love the salve. I put up the
Yeah.
I've had this really sore foot. Like if I'm sitting and I go to stand up, this one part of my foot on this acupuncture point is just painful. And I started using this and it's gone. It just took it away. But so you can do that. So you can freeze both of them. The Nettles is, it's loaded with green juice. And when you make a infusion out of it, you'll get this dark green liquid, and you can go easy on it at first, but once you get a taste of it, it's almost like your body you just need more of it. And I know herbalists who drank a quart of this every day for 2 years and nothing bad will happen to you. But it's loaded with iron. So chlorophyll, and naturopaths use plain old chlorophyll, but like extracted chlorophyll, but chlorophyll is the plant world's answer to hemoglobin.
Yes.
It's like the blood of the plant, and it carries iron, and it also is loaded with minerals.
Yes.
So it's good for it works on all levels as well, like comfrey, but it specifically addresses the kidneys and the adrenals. So that's why I picked it for the water element, because it'll nourish our life essence in our kidneys, and it will nourish the adrenals.
Well, and Dancer gets Nettles every day in his food because I want to make sure that he doesn't have any more residual issues from all that kidney crap that he went through.
He had the kidney crap, and then that created all the skin stuff. So another thing, you can use the nettle infusion as a skin spray,
That's a good idea.
as a mist, and you can Susan Weed had it. It's really good for hair and skin, but she would use it on skin, and you might want to try that with him.
Well, and what I just did, I just got my castor oil and my wool flannel to make castor oil packs for him, because I'm going to try a castor oil pack across his back to see. But what I've been doing for the last,
You can infuse the nettles in the castor oil. You know they make those.
that would be fabulous.
That's a good idea.
Because what I've been doing, we've had a lot of improvement in the last 10 days. I bought 2 extra cases of ASEA, the redox signaling molecules, because I thought he drinks 4 to 6 ounces of it a day. He loves it. He just drinks it down. And I thought, use your head. These molecules, this is the stuff of life. Use it. So I started spraying it on his body. No more moist, crappy stuff. It's all, the scales are almost gone completely.
Oh, that's good.
It's really healing well. So I thought I'm going to do that for another week or so. Then I'm going to do a castor oil pack on his back, just one place, and try it. But I can infuse the net, because I just got
Infuse the nettles. I had these little packs of herbs with the castor oil that I used to use for.
castor oil packs are great. And I just got, my God, and my local health food store, she's really great. I met her like a year and a half ago, and she's very careful about sourcing. And she's got me this big bag of, it's a big bag of nettles. It was like $4.50. It's like,
So you can just take and drink and start drinking it. Try it, see what your body says about it. But I've been drinking it because this whole thing coming out of COVID, it's like adrenal fatigue, like you're so exhausted, but it's been really helping.
I'm gonna do that.
And
Dr. Josie,
nettles, yeah.
do you find that it keeps you awake at all?
I don't.
You don't. So I wondered when I first did it. So I'm doing a couple different ways. I did a really quick infusion, 2 hours to start.
Yeah.
Try it.
Yeah.
I've also put root in, nettle root.
Oh.
Can you tell the difference between nettle root and nettle leaf?
Nettle root has more to do. I know they use nettle root tincture for prostate problems. And there's a little bit, where's that?
How's your prostate, Becky?
Um,
I don't know. I better check it out, huh?
and nettle seed and nettle leaf all have different properties.
Yeah, I've done nettle seed before as a tincture. I've never done any of these as an infusion, but I did do the nettle leaf by itself on just the 2 hour infusion. And then I've did a 4 hour infusion on day 2. Today I added root. This is the color.
Okay.
And I'm just curious because I did a very quick infusion because I didn't really know, but
it's hard with root, with dried root, the way you don't get much of the medicine out just doing an infusion. You either have to use a decoction where you put it on the stove with water and let it simmer, almost like bone broth, or an alcohol tincture. Okay. So there's probably not a lot of the actual medicine coming out of the root with just the infusion. But it's more of a diuretic, and it's actually astringent. So it's anti-diarrheal. Now that you can use nettle root as a hair and scalp tonic. So it'll help the hair and the skin and the scalp, which might be good for dancer, actually. A urinary strengthener and stimulant, an immune system lymphatic tonic, and for a bit of first aid. So the urinary stuff, it has strong kidney action, kidney stones, bladder stones. And then they say, okay, sipping nettle root decoction helps stop dysentery, diarrhea. And then where was the... It says bit of first aid, but I don't understand where that is. And then they say it's really, really good for immune system, even down to AIDS and for, the virus thing, intermittent fevers.
Somehow it came to me to buy it at the same time, and I'm not sure why, but as you say this, I know I've probably heard Rita Hogan speak out here on the West Coast, and somehow I have nettle root in my mind. The difference between nettle seed, nettle leaf, and nettle root, and I went, all 3 of them sound really good.
I would tincture it. I would make a tincture of the nettle root.
So how do I do that?
You want to get good, like try to get 100 proof vodka. I use a good organic brandy because I just like the taste of brandy better. And then what I would do with the root, you need to chop it up pretty fine. I even run it through. I have a coffee grinder that I just use for herbs. So it's pretty fine, and then put it in a bottle and make sure it's covered with alcohol. And you let it sit for, I usually let my tinctures sit at least 4 to 6 weeks. And you don't want it, because you're using alcohol. If you have a metal lid, like a canning jar, you want to cover it with paraffin, because the alcohol, will interact with the metal. And then if I have it sitting out somewhere, so every few days or weeks or something, I'll just mix it up a little bit. But you want to make sure all of the root is covered with about an inch of alcohol above it, and it's that simple. And you let it just sit, and then and around 6 to 8 weeks, you just pour it, drain out. I use like cheesecloth over a sieve and just sift out all the plant material, and you've got your tincture. And that tincture can sit on your shelf. It doesn't go bad. It's alcohol.
Right. Yeah.
It really doesn't go bad. People talk about,
because the sound of everything that you're saying, I mean, I like the fact that it strengthens the urinary system. I like the fact that it's immune system modulating. I like all of that. And
it's a little stronger. It's like if you have something serious going on, I'd go for like the root tincture. Whereas the leaf is more like a daily thing to. Now the seed is very, very interesting. David Winston told the story, and this is where the whole thing came about using the seed, is his uncle was an old root doctor in the Carolinas. And he told him, he said, you know, if somebody comes to you with a problem and you're not quite sure what to use or what's going to help them, and this goes back to plant spirit medicine, he said, go for a walk in the woods and keep thinking about this person, just bringing them up in your mind and envisioning them and thinking about them. And as you're walking through the woods, whatever plan is going to help them is going to jump out at you and get your attention. So he was walking along. He did this with this woman who came to him with, she was about ready, she was looking for a kidney transplant and they were putting her on dialysis. And so she was walking through the woods and he all of a sudden, and it wasn't, it was kind of later in the summer. And he's like, you know, okay, I'm going to try this. And sure, nothing's going to come to me. And what plants can't jump out in front of you? They're rooted to the ground. It's like all the things in his head were going on and why this is not going to work. And then this gust of wind comes by and blows this bush in front of him. And he sees all this pollen and stuff come flying off of it. And it was nettle going to seed.
Wow.
And it was the nettle seed. And so he was like, oh, you know, it was almost like that, oh shit, I've been caught. So he made a nettle seed tincture and gave it to her. And that's how he found out it's so good for glomerular nephritis. And nothing helps glomerular nephritis.
I know. It's like it takes people's creatinine down huge numbers. I mean, I've heard some stories about people that are getting ready to go on dialysis that if they will do this, nettle tincture, if they will do it, it will lower their numbers and give them time. And some people will never need dialysis. Never need
it. And it's the nettle seed. And so it also works with dogs and cats. And I think it works even better with dogs than with cat. Kidney disease is a little bit different than dogs, but dogs will get kidney failure and they'll deteriorate really fast. Like cats, it's more of a chronic progressive thing, but it can work for both of them. And how difficult is it? You know, you can buy the nettle seed tincture from David Winston owns Herbalist and Alchemist. And so you can get it from there and then, or make your own if you have nettle patches. And I was sick to my stomach with Terry's nettle patch
that's so sad.
That was another hit. It's like
I can't
believe she was telling me about it. She had been telling me about it. She's like, you'll come up here and that, you know, I usually harvest it in March and blah, 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 blah. And then it just is like freaking gone. But I told her, it grows with rhizomes. So I told her, I was like, go out there and see if there's some of the rhizomes. And she was going to dig it up anyways to plant. She's going to plant some recovery plants that will suck the glyphosate out and help the soil regenerate and recover. But if she can get those rhizomes out of there, then she can plant those someplace else, you know, and save them. So yeah, so nettles, it comes, you know, it has these stinging nettles, which is a big thing with it. They say it teaches patience because there's some herbalists that can go out and harvest it. And if you are mindful harvesting it, you won't get stung by it. So when you're mindfully taking it and picking it, you're not, it won't release the toxin that makes you itch so bad. But when you just brush up against it or knock your body into it unaware, that's when it releases the toxin. So it brings you back to a state of mindfulness and a right awareness, and, you know, just diligence is part of its teaching.
You know, I do my little mantra every day, and I've been doing this for years. And it's very simple. And I was what you said a few minutes ago, it just really hit me, because my intention every day, first thing, is that everything that I say, think, and do today will be for the highest good of all life. And that's it.
That's perfect. It's like simple, and That's whenever I would go into any of the ceremonies I've ever gone to, or retreats, or any of the ayahuasca, anything I've ever done, that has always been my intention. They'll be like, say an intention. It's always just whatever, whatever's in the hot for the highest good for everything.
That's what I do when I go to a client as I'm driving to their house.
Yeah.
That's my intention. First, to make sure that I'm clear, then to make sure that that my protection team is around me, for me and for the people and the animals. And then that I am going to do the absolute very best job that I can do that is in the highest good of all involved. And I think that's one of the reasons that I had a lot of success, even with these dogs that everybody else failed with. It's because they went in with the intention, oh, I'm going to show this dog, you know.
And it leaves you being an open channel for whatever needs to come through, as opposed to going in with your ego thinking that you know what that animal or what that situation needs.
When people ask me, well, you know, what's your training program? What's the process? I said, I have no idea until I meet you and your dog will show me and tell me what I need to do and how I need to do it. And I have no clue. And it's different for every single dog in every situation. And some people go, oh, well, I'm sure they think I'm a freaking lunatic. And others go, oh my God, that's so cool. So those are the ones I like helping.
Yeah. No, in the same way, because it's like, I might, you know, it might be a kidney case or it might be a back case, but I don't know what. It would drive, whenever I had assistants or working in clinics, it would drive them absolutely crazy, because they would try to predict ahead of time, like what I was going to need or what I was going to prescribe, and it would be different every single time. You know, so yeah, I think that's a beautiful just intention to have. Yeah, and so then I mean, when you go, I think it's good to take each individual herb to see how it feels. It's just like with the mushrooms, and then you can start like mixing them depending upon how you're feeling that particular day, like I did with this respiratory stuff, you know. So we're going backwards through the elements. So like Comfrey I picked as the wood, because wood is all about growth and it's cell proliferation and it's the tendons and ligaments and all that good stuff. And now we're going back from wood backwards into the water element, which is the nourishing. And water rules in Chinese medicine, it rules the bones, but it's more nourishing that blood. And our blood and qi, there's a saying in Chinese medicine that blood follows qi, and qi you need blood in order to have qi, because the blood nourishes the qi. So they're one-on-one. And they think of blood, it's the red stuff flowing through us, but it's also our fluid and nutrients from more esoteric perspective. Like I was telling someone the other day about the effects of a lot of these pharmaceuticals and pain meds and SSRIs and stuff. I'll see these dogs and they'll be when you get blood deficient dogs, they'll get very dry skin, like their hair will almost have that burnt quality. Like when you pet them, it'll break off and almost smell like burnt hair, and their skin will be dry, and the flakes that come off will be big size flakes. It won't be like small little dandruff. And then they're like, if you feel them, their skin will almost be tight to their underlying muscle. It'll be dry and like almost crunchy feeling. So that's all blood deficiency. And then blood deficiency, you also can be really tired, fatigued, weak, kind of like anemia, if you think with people with anemia too. And also the adrenal fatigue. So the Nettles is really good for adrenal fatigue, and it's very good for it's really good for women and for mothers. It stimulates lactation. So if you have any animals, you know, or mothers with puppies or something, it'll help. It's for humans, they'll drink it around birth time and afterwards to replenish and nourish their blood, so there's more milk production, and then it can help prevent bleeding during the birthing process.
You just got a whole new, I got a whole new area for you. Do you know how popular you would be with the transgender community? You could convince them that if they took that, men could actually.
That's it.
That's good.
I couldn't help it.
Oh my God. Yeah, so and it's also good for like menopausal fatigue and for brain fog and all of that.
Oh, been there, done that long ago.
Yeah.
Will it work retroactively?
No, it will. But it also, I mean, it helps with our iron, our calcium. It's got all these, it's very high mineral dense. What was the, oh, I wrote it down. I'll have it in the thing I'm gonna put out.
Yeah.
You know, but
I didn't have any idea it had as many minerals in it as it does.
it has,
but I had no idea how dense in minerals this nettle is.
yeah, it's crazy. It's got manganese, it's got chromium, it's got all these trace minerals, and then the iron alone, you know, it's just really good, really, really good. It's better than like you think of like spinach, but it's like even more dense than that.
Yeah.
And especially the wild nettle, you know, when you get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
what else was it?
fascinating.
Oh, and then they made cordage out of it and used it to spin and make cloth. Way back, the Romans used it. They made fishing nets out of it. And then they did this thing. There's this, they call it urtification because it's like Urtica dioica is the name of it. So they'll take the nettle branches and hit themselves with it to stimulate, and they use it. Here's the thing, instead of bee stings, you know, you were talking about bee venom for arthritis, they'll use the nettles for that, the nettle sting. And so purposefully sting themselves with nettles, and it'll take away the pain from arthritis, like severe arthritis. So you could try that, Norma. Go to find a nettle patch and just stick your hand in it unmindfully.
No. See, I'm good with things like, you know, tinctures and infusions and I kind of think, you know, like the cure is not supposed to be worse than the problem. Okay.
Right.
Somebody's back there cleaning her face, like bored with the humans. The cats, they're like,
who is that cleaning their face back there behind?
Oh, that's Hope.
oh, okay.
Little Miss Hope. She's my little princess. I said, I finally got around in July. I finally got around to packing away all my winter clothes. And then when I pulled that out, a couple of totes in the back of my closet, I found 4 totes of summer clothes that I forgot I had.
Nice.
So now I'm trying to reorganize the damn closet again, and everything's out in the middle of my office, but I think among friends, who cares?
I'm going to spend August doing that. I have so much. I feel like I need to like clean out and just.
Yeah, you know. I've got piles to donate. I actually, you'd be so proud of me. I threw away a few things, literally put them in the trash. I said, I really like you, but no, I can't.
I'm going to go through my books, which is a big deal. I was on Neighborhood app and somebody was asking like, is anybody getting rid of any books? Just when I was trying to figure out where I could take them. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So
I have a question about the milky oats. Edith said she looked everywhere, all her suppliers, people she trusts, and she couldn't find anything. She does have the tincture. I mean, is that
the tincture is good, but you know, I put up the link. I'll get you logged back in. I put up the link for Oshala Farms, and I heard of them off of a podcast, and they're this couple, they live out in Oregon, but they're growing just these medicinal herbs. And I got a bag of milky oats from them. And I had it sitting on the kitchen counter, and Tom was in there and he's like, it smells like hay. It smells like fresh.
Oh, just
oh my goodness. Like I just breathe in and they're really fresh. They're really nice. They're all organic. They bond with the land and do land ceremonies out there and honor the earth and the whole 9 yards. So it's really nice stuff.
Oh, then I'll do that.
Yeah, because the milky oats, some people say some people are more nettle people and some people are more milky oat people. Milky oats are really good nervine. It's a nerve tonic.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and so that's why I was adding it in when I wasn't sleeping well, but it will like just soothe the nerves, you know, for
But I'll use some soothing of nerves these days.
yeah. It's a ride.
You know, and I as a kid, I always hated, I went on one roller coaster ride and I hated every second of it. And I swore that I would never, ever, ever be on a roller coaster again. And I just feel like I'm on a perpetual roller coaster on this planet right now. So
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a roller coaster. It is. I think that's why like coming back to center and coming back to your immediate surroundings, you know.
yeah,
It's so
because
important.
well, that's what I actually used to say to my ex-husband, because he was so, I mean, he was just like that. And I said, and I know part of it was just, you know, it was him, it was just who he was. But I think sometimes people like that tend to do that intentionally, because what's the best way to keep somebody off balance and therefore under your control, but to never let them know whether you're going to be up, down, or whatever that.
Narcissists do that. My
Yeah,
sister
exactly.
like that. Like you would never know when they walk in the room. You would always be trying to gauge what mood they were in because you would never know.
That's
Like,
exactly. I mean,
but that's like borderline personality stuff too. I mean,
oh, look, he could have kept a psychiatrist busy for like years diagnosing all the crap.
It's like Tom's mom when we found out she was like multiple personality. I'm gonna turn off the recording now. But yeah, you know.